Welcome to Awakening Souls,
a spiritual podcast for the mystics, magical thinkers, sensitives, and spiritual seekers.
We are here to explore all things spiritual, from navigating your awakening, developing your psychic gifts, and so much more.
Together, with our combined experiences, we hope to help guide you on your path to reconnecting with your soul and the beautiful life that comes after.
So come join us on the magical journey of exploring your
Awakening Souls.
All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Awakening Souls with Candace, Jennifer, Ashley, and Rose back again. So happy that you're here. Thank you for continuing to show up. We've been hearing rave reviews about how much you're enjoying the podcast and how much it's helping you. And I just want to let you know that means the world to us to hear that. All right, so let's dig in. Today, we have a topic that we wanted to cover. About noticing the glimmers in your life. I think a lot of times we are kind of wired to focus on things that are negative or things that are going wrong or things we don't like about our life. And truthfully, that is really the worst approach that we can have when we're trying to create a future for ourselves or when we're trying to manifest in any area of our life. When we focus on certain things like negativity, we grow negativity in our life. When we focus on positivity, we grow positivity in our life. And I know it sounds totally messed up, like I should be concentrating on the things that bother me in life so that way I can change them. It would motivate me to change. But there's actually a different approach. So we're going to talk about that through Glimmers today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what is a glimmer? It's simply the opposite of a trigger. And we all know what triggers are, right? We feel them a lot. But noticing the glimmers, noticing the happy things, when you get the good feels, or you just very briefly even notice something that gives you delight or happiness or passion, those are glimmers. So what examples do we have? What glimmers have you guys been noticing?
Okay, one glimmer, yesterday I was having a really bad day. I don't know why. Sometimes you just wake up on the wrong side of the bed and I'm crabby and I don't know really why I'm crabby. But we went out to a birthday party and on our way back from the birthday party, in the clouds, I can see a cloud rainbow. And rainbows to me are always meaning like spiritual meanings of rebirth, of good fortune, of good luck, of awakenings. And it always gives me those good feels. So yesterday, my glimmer was a cloud rainbow and it was so faint. Like I was pointing it out to my kids and it took a minute for them to find it, but I found it. I saw the rainbow in the clouds.
So pretty.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's a perfect example. Anyone else?
How about you, Rose? Put you on the spot
Okay, that's fine.
because I can't think of anything right now.
Oh, so let's throw it at Rose.
Yeah.
No worries. So just a couple of things pop into my mind. The first thing that popped into my mind is I've been seeing blue sparkles everywhere. And that's like not normal. I'll see like regular colored sparkles, but I'm standing in the bathroom, getting ready in the morning, and there's a little blue sparkle off in the distance.
Mhm.
Or I'm looking at the floor and all of a sudden there's a blue sparkle. I was petting my kitty this morning and she had a blue sparkle right next to her chin. So they're like showing up everywhere. And so when I see like those little sparkles or lights, it just gives me the sign that spirit is with me and like I'm vibrating at a place high enough to actually recognize it. So it's like they're saying, hello, you're
Yeah.
doing well. We love you. That kind of thing. So that's one thing that I've been seeing lately.
That's a literal glimmer.
It is,
Yeah.
right? I know. It's the very best kind. Oh gosh. And then like this other glimmer is going to sound kind of strange, but I put a post on Facebook this morning asking people if they wanted a card pull, and I'm getting all kinds of responses. And so I've been pulling cards for the last couple of hours. And it's like I'm connecting with each of these people for like just a brief moment. And it's like I'm getting to feel big love.
Mm.
And it's so powerful. And I'm just feeling everybody's divine spark for just a moment. And it's just making me feel so amazed. And it's also giving me a sense of oneness, of being connected to all of these beautiful people. And the cards that I'm pulling are cards that have been my experiences too. So I'm just having this lovely moment this morning of feeling very connected to all kinds of beautiful people. And that's just making my heart sing today. And it's not like anything that's big or major, but boy, it's powerful.
Feels big, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does.
Mm-hmm.
People are amazing and they're the best. And I'm just loving that right now.
My glimmers, I guess I've been looking at them a little bit differently. Like I'll give you an example. I dropped something the other day. I was doing dishes and I dropped something and I thought, how annoying that I dropped this. I'm in the middle of doing dishes. I really want to get this done, whatever. But then I took a second. I'm like, wait a minute. It fell straight down. All you have to do is bend down, pick it up. It didn't roll off 20 meters away or something. You didn't have to go chasing it and then stop what you were doing. So those are my little glimmers. I just catch those little moments that are just so simple, but how lucky am I to experience that?
Yes. I'm so happy you brought that up.
Thank you.
Because we do, I mean, mine and Rose's, I feel like so far have been bigger or more spiritual like glimmers. And that's an everyday glimmer where it's your everyday life. It's something so small. My example this morning, I kept trying to think of one and I was like, oh, needing to always search for a pen, but there just happens to be a pen right in front of me today. So that's a glimmer.
Yeah.
Focusing on the little bitty things that are going well in your day.
Yes. Yes.
I have a very small glimmer that is very 3D. And I wrote this one down because it actually makes me so happy. My glimmer is, you know, when you're using like a bigger printer and like you print out a bunch of copies of something and they come out so warm.
Yes.
That makes me so happy. That is truly such a glimmer for me.
Like grabbing the warm laundry for the dryer, that too.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yes. And I also wanted to point out that you can create some glimmers. So for me, on the weekends, sometimes I'll wake up and I will turn on Ina Garden. And when I have Ina Garden on in the morning time on like a Saturday or a Sunday, everything just feels right in the world. I have no worries. I have no problems. It's just me and Ina, and we are having a delightful morning time. And that is such a happy glimmer for me as well.
I love that. I love that because, I mean, when you get those glimmers and you notice them, it raises the vibration and it just makes you feel so good.
Mm.
Definitely a natural high.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Totally.
Mm-hmm. And if you're not feeling, something internally when you're going about looking at these glimmers or noticing them, then maybe there's just a little bit more work you have to do, I think. I'm not sure. But...
No, you're right. We are wired to focus on the negative. Science says that that's just how our biology is made. That's how our brain is made, is to focus on the things that go wrong in our day or the things that don't go right. Because I believe, one, it is science. That's how the brain was wired. Because if you go back hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, when we were hunters and gatherers, we always had to be on the lookout for what was going to go wrong, what wasn't going to go right, so we could be ready to run if we needed to run or fight if we needed to fight. And our biology hasn't quite caught up to the new aged way of living in modern society. So our biology is really slow in evolution to catch up to those kinds of things. And my theory also is that it is conditioning. We're constantly being bombarded with things on television, in movies, in music. That is
your own family.
Yeah, that happens to be more negative. So our brain has developed neural pathways that focus only on one thing, negativity. And you have to rewire your brain. Quite literally, this is what this is doing when you're focusing on glimmers, when you're focusing on the things that are going well in your day, no matter how small they are, like the warm coffee paper, or like the sparkles that you see, or the slight rainbow you get in the clouds. When you focus on those little things, you're telling your brain, no, we're not going to focus on negative all the time. We're going to rewire those pathways to focus on something different. And that's a habit. And it takes practice and it takes time to get there. But focusing on those small things, like what you just said with, what was that?
Dropping some.
With noticing, I dropped something, and I'm not making a big deal about it. I noticed that it fell right in front of me, and yay, I don't have to go chase after it. Those are small everyday glimmers that we should be looking for. Those are the small things that matter the most. We think that we need to be focusing on these big things that happen to us. Like I was just doing gratitude journaling with my daughter, my 12-year-old, because she's struggling to see the glimmers. And she was like, I can't think of these grand things that are so good in my life right now. And I was like, that's not what this is about. This is about focusing on the tiny things that are going well in your life. So we can rewire the pathways, the neurons in your brain. So it becomes more of a habit, and you adapt to looking at things that are going well in your life, and you see more of those things going well in your life, and you attract more of those things going well in your life.
Because attracts like, or like attracts like. Yeah.
So we've been talking about the law of attraction, and I just want to quickly define it in case anybody is wondering what that is. And simply put, the law of attraction is the concept that your thoughts determine your reality. And so, like Candace said earlier, what you focus on grows. And I remember at like the very beginning of my spiritual awakening, I was recommended this book called The Game of Life and How to Play It. And I remember the title of the book super triggered me. And so much so that I put it on the back of the bookcase shelf and was like, I'm not going to be reading this. That title just made me so mad. And we'll pick that back up and I'll tell you why it made me mad. But I want to just ask you, and this is rhetorical, but do you think or feel like you're playing to win, or are you playing not to lose? And we'll circle back to that as well. Our beliefs are chosen, even though our beliefs at this point in our lives seem so natural to us. They're so hardwired into who we are and how we think and how we feel. But at the core of it, and if we really peel back some layers, our beliefs are chosen. And so I'm going to ask you guys a question, and I want everybody to think of the answer. You don't have to write it down. You don't need a pen and paper. It's just a quick thought. Don't overthink it. Whatever comes first into your brain, let that be the answer. And so here's the question. How much money is it ethical for you to make in a year? Right, think about that answer. How much money is it ethical for you to make in a year? So now that you have that number, let's take a look at it. Why do you believe what you wrote? And again, just think about it. Why do you believe that? And then my last question is, are you positive that that's true? Is that a fact, or is that a belief that you have? So the point of this is to illustrate that in order for the law of attraction to work, you have to take a look at your limiting beliefs. And we all have them, and they like to really hide because they do feel so natural to us now at this point in life, but we have them, and you have to look at them in order for you to really fully manifest the life that you want. And here's another secret, especially for empaths in terms of the law of attraction. If you're an empath, you can not only think positive things and get what you want, you have to feel a certain way to get what you want. And so that is truly why glimmers are so important. It's because a glimmer creates a feeling within us. And so we're attracting more of that good feeling. And so we're mentally thinking, oh, I love the copy paper when it's warm, but I'm feeling warm and I'm creating more warmth in my life. So back to our question, are you playing life to win, or are you playing not to lose? So are you doing something so that you don't feel abandoned or unworthy? Or are you doing something so that you feel harmony and love? Are you working so you don't starve? Or are you working because you're passionate about what you do? And so that title of the book, The Game of Life and How to Play It, it was so triggering to me because I had a victim mentality. I thought life was happening to me. And once I understood the law of attraction and I understood the importance of feeling a certain way and retraining my brain to see the good, I went from being a victim of life to being an empowered co-creator of life. And so if any of those things were triggering to you, it's just it's a good thing. It's a good thing to notice our triggers, but we have to start really peeling them back so that we can start seeing the good and that we can become empowered, right?
I think this kind of goes along the lines of gratitude. And I can remember, like in the beginning, journaling every morning, because you hear things and you're like, oh, you should journal about your gratitude and be grateful. So I would do that every morning and be like, yes, I'm grateful for this, and this. But that's it. I didn't have any feelings that went with these grateful thoughts. And one day I was just looking back and like, where did I feel the most grateful? And can I pull that feeling into my everyday thinking when I'm thinking of being grateful? And so I went back to Christmas morning. I think I was 9 or 10 years old. And I remember rounding the corner and then seeing the Christmas tree all lit up and all the gifts underneath. And I just felt this gratefulness, and it felt so wonderful. And then that's how I started pulling in that feeling every time I was feeling grateful. And now it's just so easy.
Mm-hmm. It is a complete retraining of your nervous system. You hit the nail right on the head with the concept of feeling the things that you are looking at, the glimmers that you're seeing, the grateful things throughout your day. You have to feel it, because feeling is the most intense thing that rewires the neural pathways in the brain. Mm-hmm. When something traumatic happens to you, take that for instance, it's an intense feeling in the moment that automatically and instantaneously rewires the neural pathways in your brain. So it's doing exactly the opposite of intensifying the emotion within your body so it's strong enough to rewire those neural pathways.
So, what do you do when you are in a place that you cannot even generate the positive feelings? There was a time in my life when I was going through a depression. I mean, I was diagnosed with depression. I was seeing a counselor. I was on medication to help me get to a better place. And I was doing what I was supposed to be doing to try and heal that. But my heart hurt so bad, and I was in pain all the time. Yeah, how do you get to see the glimmers when you are so deep in that kind of a space? Because I think we all get there from time to time. I think that's a natural cycle.
Well, what you start with doing is making sure you're taking care of your mental health and you're reaching out and you're finding the help you need professionally. while exercising this part. And that's focusing on the glimmers. And when you cannot see what the glimmers are, you can't see the positives, you start with the absolute smallest thing that you can find. When I was doing coaching with people who were stressed or overwhelmed or going through depression or even going through mental health disorders or PTSD, this is where we would start. I would ask them to grab a journal, and they would have to do this every evening or every morning, whichever worked best for them. And they just, for the first couple of weeks, focus on 3 to 5 things within their day that they saw that went well. And it can be the teeniest, tiniest thing, like the sun touched my cheek today and I enjoyed the warmth of that. Or I loved the feeling of, or even just enjoyed, or for a moment I felt good when the wind was blowing through my hair. Or I saw a hummingbird today and that was beautiful. Start with the smallest things that you can see in your physical world, or the smallest things that are happening to your physical body, the sensations that you feel that we may take for granted for the everyday things. I was in therapy for a long time, and I remember when my therapist asked me that question, and I sat there for a good 30 minutes going, nothing. I can't find anything that I like in my life that's going well. And she really helped me to find those things through looking at the physical world. Well, do you enjoy the sound of your children laughing? Of course I enjoy the sound of my children laughing. There you go. Notice that every time your children laugh, how that makes you feel. It feels good, right? Do you like the way it feels when you go for a walk and that sun is on your cheeks? Yeah, I actually really love that feeling. You know, it's focusing on those itty bitty things. It doesn't have to be these great, big, old, grand things. Like we've already said, it's focusing on the smaller stuff. And you start with 3, maybe 5. That's a stretch because you're retraining your brain. So it's going to be difficult. But the more you do it, and the more things you start to notice it throughout the day, and then it gets a little bit easier. And some days are harder, and then it gets easier. You know, it's the ebb and flow, but it's the consistency that retrains the brain, retrains the nervous system. And the more often you do it, the easier it gets.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think too, if today you sit down and you try and think of a glimmer and you do get a big old goose egg, you get nothing, and you're not feeling anything except low, that is also okay. Try again tomorrow. Honestly, I think the fact that you're trying, it's opening up the door. Eventually you'll get there. So if you keep over and over for a week, nothing, I feel horrible and I'm not thinking of anything, it's okay. Keep trying. Eventually you will find something, and it will be like a portal into feeling a whole different way. You're not stuck. Things do get better. Just keep trying.
And you'll be surprised when you sit there and you put some effort into it, what comes up for you. My daughter was really struggling this weekend with finding things that were glimmers for her. And she wrote down 3 things, and I read them with her. And I'm like, did you actually feel good when you wrote these down? And she said, no. And you could tell like the attitude in her body. It was like, I'm just going to write this because I was told to write this, but I don't believe any of it. And then she closes the book, and that was the end of it. And I was like, this isn't going to help you if this is how your approach is. So
maybe it's a Virgo thing, because I mean, that's how I was last week too. Like my husband was doing the same thing. He's like, well, just think of one good thing. And I was like, there's nothing.
You know what? I think it's a stubborn quality because we get stuck in feeling these emotions, and in our brains, it doesn't feel like there's any other option. And when someone brings up another option, we fight against it. We have resistance against it. It's natural, but you got to put that resistance aside for just a minute and say, okay, what if this does work? What if I can find one thing in my day that went well, even if it's tiny? Okay, let's give that a try. It's like a surrender to the exercise. And I honestly don't know what changed within my daughter to do this, but she gave it another try that same night and came up with pages of things that she was grateful for and that she saw in her day that was good. And the glimmers and how proud of herself she was for things. I mean, it was great to see that, but the switch was flipped really quickly for her. And it's not going to be like that for everyone. But if you really sit down, you put in the effort and you surrender to the exercise and you say, I'm going to give this a try, even if it's just one thing, then you're really going to surprise yourself at how quickly this can help retrain your brain.
And maybe too, if you are feeling a lot of emotions, but they're not the desirable emotions, you're not feeling the happy, you're feeling the angry, maybe before you journal out the glimmers, journal out and dump the things you want to get rid of, like get those out of you. So take a page and be like, I'm angry and I'm sad and nothing works out for me, and I just, get it all out, get it out of you onto paper, and burn it, release it, tear it up, throw it away, and then let that be a moment of completion so you can move on to the glimmers.
Yes, you don't want to ignore what's really coming up for you. The real emotions or the real anger that you're having, that's called spiritual bypassing. When you start to bypass all of the negative things that you actually have going on in your body and you just skip to the good stuff. We're not going to skip to the good part, okay? We've got to move through the pain, move through the emotions, just like Ashley said, so you can release them and you're creating a clean slate to then focus on the positive.
It's funny, I actually forgot I did this, but last week, I did this. I wrote down on a paper, I wrote down a couple key words. I wrote down, I wish I could remember them all. I wrote down fears, doubts, worries, sadness, loss. There might have been more, and then I just filled in the blanks, like each category. I wrote, what am I feeling associated to this word? What am I feeling associated to this word? And that's how I broke that down and released some of that stuff.
And that was to help you start to release the emotions you had with those words?
Yeah, well, I did a card pull, and one of the cards, I cannot remember what card it was, but it was, and I can't remember even what the topic of the card was, but it was basically saying, like, it listed these words that I just said, and it was like, what are you feeling associated to these things? And normally when I read things in a little card reading book or whatever, like I won't always like go through the actual process of doing what it says to do. And I was like, you know what, like maybe I do just need to like actually do this. So I did. I sat there, and so like for worry, I wrote down all my worries. I wrote them down and got them out of me. What am I worried about? Because sometimes one, things get all balled up inside of us and they just need an outlet. Or two, you might not actually have any worries. You think you're really worried, but when you sit there and you think about, okay, what are my worries? What am I worried about? You realize, I'm not worried, I'm just angry, or I'm not worried, I'm just having a lot of doubt. So it's helpful for me to really identify things and get it all kind of like straight and organized inside my brain, so I can just understand what I'm feeling, because sometimes we don't actually understand what we're feeling. It just kind of starts to snowball into chaos. And before you know it, you've got this insane, overwhelming mess inside your head. And it's like, remember last week, Rose, when you were saying like you struggled to clean your room because it was too much of a mess?
Right.
Same thing, like it's too overwhelming. We have to like slowly comb through and really identify what's what, put the socks in with the socks, put the worries in with the worries, and then get it out, release it, and that works for me. So I don't know, maybe it will work for you guys too.
I think just the act of identifying your emotions, which so many of us don't do, we ignore the emotions, we bottle it up, we keep it stuck down deep inside, we distract ourselves from even acknowledging our emotions. I think just being able to sit and identify it is enough to get the ball rolling in that direction. And when we're talking about starting something new or habits, this is all about starting a new habit, you've got to start with the small. So if you're feeling like you have a mess of emotions that you're not really taking the time to identify and look at, then start there. That's where you start for now before you get to the where's my glimmers part. Okay. So start with your emotions, start identifying your emotions. And I think that in itself is enough to start releasing them and clear the way to start focusing on the positive.
Okay, and so our last little thing that we wanted to talk about is, are you in a state to receive? So, um, when we get into this sort of law of attraction, manifesting state, we are very much creating, we're being that co-creator, and it's so good. But are you in a place where you're open to receiving what that law of attraction is bringing you? So don't get so stuck in the creation aspect. Make sure that you're taking time to just be and to be open to receiving the beautiful things that you've been manifesting for so long. Does that make sense?
Well, that goes right along with glimmers. Glimmers are allowing you to see all the positive that you really already have in your life, and it helps you create more and attract more. So that is an opening aspect.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Do you guys have any examples of times when you were feeling positive, but you weren't open to receiving?
Yeah, I feel like that's me all the time.
Okay, can you share a story?
I think that for me goes back to that survival instinct or the maybe like worthiness aspect of, I was always taught like you have to work hard for what you get in life. And I was shown that it's not only about constant work, it's about constant overwork of yourself. And so, yes, while I'm noticing the glimmers, I'm not in a state of receiving. I'm still in a hyper focused state of creating out of survival and out of this is how I receive praise and love, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I have to consciously think, okay, I've done a lot of work in manifesting. I'm noticing the glimmers, and now I'm going to take a step back and I'm going to breathe and I'm going to think about opening my heart space and feeling safe enough to open my solar plexus and let the universe give those things to me that continue to move me forward. We don't move forward by working all the time. We also move forward by just being, which does not make sense in my head, but I've seen it to be true. So that's something that I am working on. And that's an affirmation. I am open to receiving and feeling that. I feel open to receiving, those are hard things for me. So it's not just an acknowledgement of the glimmers. It's okay to feel open to the goodness that life has to offer. And I don't have to work at 150% to receive a trickle of success. Still working on it.
That's a really good point, Ashley, because I mean, that is something I think a lot of us have as social conditioning. And I know that's how I was raised is you work hard and then you get things. And the only way
Mhm.
to get things is by working hard. But if you're working hard all the time, you're never open to receiving. So,
Right.
yeah, that's a really good point.
I think that mine was the opposite. Not surprising here. I feel like I'm always the opposite of you guys. Mine was a fear of working hard and a fear of receiving. Not that I wasn't open to receiving, maybe, or that I wasn't, I don't know how to explain this. I was afraid to work hard. I was afraid to be, working hard for me meant that I was independent and meant that I was capable because of the neglect that I felt from my parents as a child. I needed them to feel like they needed to be there. So I played the helpless card over and over and over again into adulthood because that's where my safety lied. If I showed that I was not capable of doing things on my own, if I didn't work hard, well, then I would always have people around me who would show up and help me achieve or take care of me. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So it was a fear of working hard, a fear of being capable, because that meant being alone in my book. If I could do it, if I was capable, then I would be alone.
I love that perspective. And I'm so glad that we all have such different experiences because I hope that people that listen can relate to at least one of our stories or parts of each of our stories, so that we realize these are things that we all struggle with, and we're only human, right? So we're doing this together.
Jennifer, how about you? Do you have any work ethics, either to or not to work, or how do you work with that idea?
I really haven't put much thought into it. I don't like working. I just don't like working.
That sounds like a limiting belief.
Is it?
It does. And I won't make you dig into it here. But if you don't like working, I would ask yourself, well, why?
Mm-hmm.
What about that is scary to me? Or where do I feel triggered around the idea of putting in effort or working hard? And I would venture to say that it's probably pretty close to mine.
And when you started talking about it, I'm like, oh, everything's starting to make sense. So yeah.
So I would say the same thing to our listeners too. If there are things that you've heard in this podcast today that makes you go, oh, that's me too, but you don't really have an understanding of why that is for you, why you can't see the glimmers, or why work output is really hard for you to do, or why you overwork, I would invite you to sit back and do a little journaling exercise yourself. I get so much resistance in the idea of journaling from people, but I promise you there is science behind journaling, and you tap into another part of your consciousness and your subconsciousness when you write things down on paper. Things will come out of you that you didn't expect, that you knew, or that you felt, or that you thought. And the whole idea of this is to help you become more aware of what's really going on the inside. Because if you have awareness of who you truly are, of how you truly feel, and what's going on that inside, then you have more control over your life than you have been led to believe. And when you have more control, you start to step into that creator role, that co-creator with the universe and yourself. So you're no longer playing the victim of life happening to you, but rather of you being in control of how your life plays out in your world. So I would invite you to be open to doing that work of opening up, journaling about it, or even talking about it to someone that you know will listen and who loves you unconditionally and will not judge you for the things that come. All right, everyone. Well, I think that we have had an incredible conversation today about this topic, and I really hope it was helpful for you. But before we go, we want to tell you about something really special that we're going to do.
We have a glimmer that I hope you will all so enjoy. So we are starting a new segment on our podcast, and we're calling it Mystic Moments. And so we're bringing you guys in for psychic readings, and they're all going to be different. So this next one we're going to do is going to be an animal reading. And so we will be psychically tuning into your animal and answering any questions that you have for your animal, and just really seeing what they have to say. So if you would like to nominate your animal to be read on our podcast, please visit our social media. So Sanctuary Reiki Center, or awakening_souls_podcast. And we will be drawing a animal on Saturday. So make sure you do that right away. You have, if you're listening to this when it comes out on Friday, you have a little window of opportunity to still get your animal nominated to be read. And all you have to do is submit a photo of your lovely animal on our post all about this animal communication. And then we will be reading your pet. And animals have so much fascinating things to share with us. Animals are really paying attention to things more than we realize. So they're very wise and they have a lot to say, and they can give us a lot of insight into not only our lives, but their lives and their experience. So that said, if you have questions about your pet, general, if you have like health concerns, if you just want to see what they have to say, leave us their picture and a comment, and we will be drawing a person to read. So that is going to be our mystic moment for our next podcast. And I hope you guys all so enjoy it. I know we're super looking forward to it.
Definitely. And know that you can submit a picture of your pet, whether they are living or if they have passed. Look forward to more of these mystic moments. If you follow us on our social media platforms, then you're going to get updates and see what's coming up next so you can get yourself in to have a reading done. And they're going to be different every week. So look forward to that. All right, everyone, don't forget to leave us a positive review on whatever podcast platform that you're listening to this on, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.